Hello, everyone. Welcome to Achieving Success with Olivia Akin. I'm your host, Olivia Akin. Each week, we will discuss the roadmap of achieving your personal and professional success. We will give you real-life stories on growing personally and professionally to achieve your life and career goals with the help of some top-notch guests. Today, we are speaking with Doug Stout. Doug is the Chief Executive Officer at Stout Franchise Advisors, which focuses on helping professionals and executives across the United States who are interested in learning how to transition from traditional employee into a small business or franchise owner. You can find Doug by going to his website, stoutfranchiseadvisors.com, or by emailing him at dstout@ftlm.net. Hello, Doug. It's fantastic having you on the show today.
Hey, Olivia, how you doing? Thanks for having me on the show.
I'm so excited. To start off the show, can you tell me what success means and looks like to Doug Stout?
Success, just by definition, I think, it's accomplishment of one's goals. But for me, I'm a little bit older, I've got a family. So I think for me, success is achieving work-life balance. And I think, achieving that is success for me. But I think also as part of that is having goals. So, hey, am I really achieving that? So in having personal goals and also business goals, I think is very important in having that balance.
And I love that you bring up the work-life balance is what success looks like for you. Diving into that a little bit because you help a lot of different people with becoming franchisee owners in a lot of different markets, and you're a franchise owner in different markets. How do you handle that work-life balance, and how do you kind of prioritize things during when trying to figure out that balance?
So I'm real lucky that I work from home. I have for 19 years, which is great. So the good thing is I work from home, but the bad thing too is I work from home. So now that we have an 8-year-old, we've had, a daughter now for 8 years, really given me a point of clarity of, hey, what can I do to focus time with her and with my business? So up here, you can't see to my left, but I actually have goals that I set up, daily goals. I have my yearly goals, my monthly goals. So I make sure that, hey, here's the block of times that I have to work at work, and then here's the block of times I have for family, and making sure that I keep true to those blocks. If you look at my calendar, it's so color coded with different things, so they all mean different things. But I use my calendar to stay focused to achieve that balance. And a lot of it too is having fun family time, making sure that it's there. And my 8-year-old will definitely let me know if I'm not achieving that.
And I love that you said you stayed true to the time blocks you have. And that's really important sometimes. Yes, things can come up and things might have to change sometimes, but when you're true and you're organized in the essence like you do with the color coding of what different things mean and the priorities in those blocks of time can really help you feel not as pressured, calm, and then know what you're doing throughout the day and make sure you're setting those times aside for what you're doing, whether personal time or professional time, and knowing how much time you really have to allocate to each area.
It does. It really keeps me focused. It really, having goals, daily, monthly, weekly goals, and yearly goals definitely keeps me focused. But B, just, hey, here's my calendar. Here's what it is. And there are times my calendar dictates things to me, which is totally wrong to be. And I'm like, oh, I'm out of balance. I need to dictate to my calendar and staying true to that. That's very important.
And I agree. I think sometimes, life gets a hold of us. And like you said, your calendar ends up dictating to you, and you're like, wait. And that's a great way, too, though, to know if you're in balance or out of balance is by being able to physically see that instead of it just being a mental thing. Because when you get wrapped up in things, sometimes you forget that balance, or if something's getting too much of your time and another area of your life is getting too little. Doug, you've been helping individuals become business owners within different franchise industries for the past 19 years, as you had said previously. What made you get into the franchise industry?
So, funny story, probably like a lot of people at some point in their life, they get laid off. So here I am, mid 30s, gone through being laid off now twice over 18 months, and I was totally out of control of both situations. I walked into my job one day, 1 hour later, I'm walking out with a box because we had $100 billion company bought out $1 million company just for the client list. And they laid us all off. At another time, where it was a small mom and pop, and they ran out of money, which, hey, that's common. And both of those things are out of my control. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way. Going back a year, my best friend from college bought a franchise. I thought franchises were nothing but restaurants.
Mhm.
He bought a franchise called Alloy Wheel Repair Specialist. So if you get curb damage to your wheels or bent wheels, he's the guy who fixes it. And he still has that business, does great. I saw what he was doing. So I'm like, okay, I know I can make things happen. I'm very entrepreneurial, going clear back to when I was a kid. I was that kid that delivered newspapers and cut yards and things like that, shoveled snow because I grew up north. So I went to a franchise seminar and said, okay, let me learn about franchising. And then I'm like, okay, I found the right franchise for myself. So I've been in here for 19 years helping people find franchises for themselves. But then I've also had other franchises too.
And I want to talk about that a little bit because a lot of people have the conception when you think of the word franchise, you immediately think of food and food alone. You've McDonald's, you've Burger King, you've Krispy Kreme. The list can go on and on. And I'm definitely a big foodie, so love love those types of franchises. Do not get me wrong. And you've more, even not just like more of a fast food, but you have your Applebee's, you have your Friendlies, you have all a lot of food that's
Mhm.
out there that are franchises. And to me, when I think of the word franchise, I immediately, to understand it, think of those types. But like you said, there's a lot of different franchise types besides food. What is that misconception, do you think? And what different industries are there franchises in?
So if you look at franchising, people think of franchising as food. I think because of McDonald's, that's where
Mhm.
it's got its start. It got its roots, and I think that's why everybody thinks about it. But if you look at things now, again, depending on what source you look at, there's about 150 different business categories in franchising now. There's over 3,500 different franchisors. So it can be anything from, I'll use me as an example. If you would have said, hey, Doug, you and your wife are going to own an organic nail salon franchise 19 years ago, I would have said, what? But here we are. We're four months into it and absolutely love it. Manage the manager organic nail salon franchise, and we own it. Who would have thought that was a franchise? I talked about my best friend doing Alloy Wheel Repair Specialist as a franchise. I owned a karate franchise at one time based out of Philadelphia. Who would have thought that was a franchise? Senior care had area development rights for a senior care franchise and grew that very well. There's medical franchises. There's, personal training franchises. There's home services. Matter of fact, I had kitchen tune-up in my home yesterday that was giving me an estimate on redoing kitchens. And it was a female who was outsourced, female executive from um, St. Francis that is now the franchisee here in Greenville. That is their franchisee. So who would have thought, hey, that's a franchise doing kitchen cabinets and redoing your kitchens? So it's really, if you think about business categories, pretty much there's a franchise in it.
And I love that, in just think of any business industry in any market and you can find a franchise. And I think that's the thing we all have to think about is there's always the opportunity, right? You don't have to go out and immediately reinvent the wheel or come up with a new business. There are a lot of benefits of becoming a franchisee owner. Can you go into what those benefits can be and why someone might decide to become a franchisee owner?
Sure. I think the biggest thing, and this is the reason why I became a franchise and I'm still in the industry, you're in business for yourself. You're not in business by yourself. So what that means is there's the training, the support structures there. If you have a question, like my wife and I, we had an hour-long meeting today with the franchisor talking about our next growth stage and what we're trying to do there. If I was in business for myself, I have to figure all those things out.
Mhm.
Here we had an hour-long conference call with our ops person who's there to help us succeed. That's why we pay a royalty of, hey, this is where we're at. This is where we see we're going. How do we get there? This is how we feel like we're going to get there. So the training and the support is there. The whole operations is there. We learned this. I knew nothing about nail salons. But yet here we are in this nail salon business. We have a manager who runs it for us. but we can manage that manager because we ended up hiring the right people, and the franchisor helps you with that.
And for you, we talk about you just brought up having the right people in place, right?
Mhm.
Whether that's as an owner, your employees who are teammates in the success of your franchisee, your franchise doing well, or the higher ups who are helping you put those things in place for you to be successful as the owner. For you, what is that importance like, and what do you look for from both ends of the spectrum to say, yes, this is right for me?
So from a franchisor's point of view, I think when clients are investigating or when I'm investigating it, I think going back to success, what's the goals, needs, expectations you want out of that business? What's the income, lifestyle, wealth, equity goals you want out of that business? It's okay that you don't, know that industry, but is that franchisor going to deliver those things to you? And then do you feel like you can have success and believe in the product and believe in the service that they're offering? If you believe those things, then hey, it's the right franchise for you. With employees, when we look at our manager, we look at our staff, we're looking at them saying, hey, can they deliver a really good customer experience to them and look at the customer as, hey, this is, we want to deliver again the good customer experience. We want to look at, hey, do they take initiative into things, whatever that may be, and go from there. And then for us, they're expecting us to provide them with a good book of business, and for us to treat them as people, not just numbers. And I think that's very important there.
In your opinion, if someone's looking to become possibly a franchise owner, what is the biggest first step someone should be doing or seriously considering to possibly become an owner?
I think first off, being open minded and realizing, hey, it's a whole lot of different industries, but then also look at, hey, if you've got your job right now, perfect. There are franchises out there that allow you to be semi-absentee, manage the manager, or if you're looking for a total career change, you can do that too. But identifying, hey, what do you want things to look like for you? There's so many people who go out there and say, "Hey, I want to own a business," and they're doing ready, fire, aim. And it's really take the time to do the investigations and write down, this is what I want. Here's my, again, goals, needs, expectations for business ownership. This is where I want to go, and identifying that. That's the most important thing, I think, in the beginning, because you don't know if you're going to hit it if you don't have a goal in mind. But start identifying those goals and what you want.
And I think that's really important to know walking into something what your goals are and what is important to you and what different aspects you are good at, but also what's a priority. Because if you don't have the note worth of what is a priority or what interests you, then how can you sit and decide to grow something? You need to have that interest. Doug, when clients come to you wanting to learn more about becoming a franchise owner and doing that process, what through you does that process look like from start to finish?
So it's really a four-step process that I take people through. It's all education based, so there's no charge there. The first thing is the questionnaire, so I can start understanding goals, needs, expectations, and understanding what they've liked about their career, haven't liked about their career. And basically, I gather a bunch of data from them that I can go out and build a business plan. From there, I take the business plan, put it together, that data, do research, find franchises that match it, then introduce those franchises to them. And a lot of things are things they've never even considered. So we start talking about that. Then I'm like, okay, just take your decision hat off. Let's have fun with this. Let's learn. Let's start talking to the franchisors. Let's start learning about what that business is, because what that business is and what you think it is in your role could be two different things.
Mhm.
So let's learn about those. Then we'll compare the franchises against one another. And sometimes we got to go down a different road, as we learn things. But then step three would be funding, helping people understand what their funding aspects like, and then legal. If they step four is legal, if they need legal advice, putting them in touch with attorneys and things like that. Let's all gather the facts and see where it goes.
And I think it's really important to realize you have to gather the facts and you have to make sure everything aligns. We've definitely talked about how sometimes, like you said in the beginning, someone walks in the room with an idea or an idea of a possible franchise or the idea of what it would look like to be a franchise owner and it changes. For you, how do you help individuals along that path as things might be shifting and ideas and understanding really what it takes? And how do you help that person understand whether it is a right fit or it's not and then proceed forward with that?
So I think as people learn about franchising, their goals, needs, expectations could change. What they thought was important may not be as important, and what they didn't think was important ends up being real important. So helping them understand that. I think helping them, one of the great things about franchising, not only are you going to hear things from the franchisor, the parent company's point of view, you have access to all the name, address, and telephone numbers of all the current franchisees. So as you're learning things, you're like, I could see myself in this franchise. Start talking to franchisees. Franchisees are going to tell you everything you want to know about their business from their point of view. They've been there, done that. They're going to talk to you about, hey, this is what the training's like. This was what I was fearful of when I started getting to business ownership and learning those things and having those conversations. I think can be really important to them. So as they look at things, they're like, okay, I can see how I can do this.
For you, like you said, which I love, is you get access not just to more of the corporate side and database and people who can help you, but all the other franchisee owners. How do you build personally yourself those connections with other owners as you're deciding to make a buy within a franchise division and then keep those relationships?
So with franchising, the great thing about franchising I love, well, there's several things, but everybody's in the same boat. So it's kind of like a rising tide raises all ships. So whenever I was in corporate America, what was in your best interest and somebody else's best interest may not align sometimes. It, it may not have worked out. In
Mhm.
franchising, everybody wants to see everybody succeed. It's like, hey, if you're successful, you're going to help me in my business be successful someplace. And so everybody helps everyone out. You have conferences there where you network with other franchisees. So even as you're growing your business, you're going to go to conferences and meet everybody that's in the system. And you end up, like for me, when I was a early on franchisee in systems, I would look, see, guy, who's the most successful franchisees in that system and talk to them. How did you get there? And I'm here at the very beginning. What steps did you take? Because you got to, crawl before you can walk, walk before you can run. How do I go about doing that so I don't stub my toe and stumble? Um, and then, you know, reciprocating that back. So when you become a tenured franchisee, you're helping people that way coming back and helping them do those same things.
And I think that's really important to remember to pay it forward. Someone's helping you and helping you grow. And one of the great things that you talked about being a donor is that community of being able to lean on someone else and learn from them and then be able to for someone else to lean on you because then the day, like you said, when you succeed and you can give someone else the tools to succeed, it's not a competition. It's not taking business away from you, even though you are like, let's take McDonald's, for example. If you own a McDonald's and else owns a McDonald's, even if they're relatively close by, you're not necessarily taking business from each other. You're helping each other grow that business. And so for you, what is it like being able to take that knowledge and then take it from one end, from someone who might be sharing it with you, and then give it to someone else who needs it?
Well, there's been a lot of times in franchising where I saw somebody's idea and I was able to adapt it to me. Or, hey, they've done this idea, but if I do a little tweak over here, this could be really successful for me on over here in this market. And then sharing that back with them. Hey, you're doing it this way. I've taken that idea and done it this way. Something you may want to think about because here's the success I'm having. So you share data back and forth. So I think that works well. And then new franchisees always have different perspectives. So you may see something one way, but their perspective and their life experience is totally something else. And they see that idea as like, oh no, you could really do it this way. And look at what this could do for your business. And it all comes back to you.
And one of the other things liked about what you had brought up previously was about the conferences and the different things that being a franchise owner really gives you, where starting your own business right from scratch might not. Those conferences, that community. What are the different things that different franchise organizations offer that people might not think about?
So you look at several things. Let's start when you're first a franchisee, you're going to go to a training class. Chances are there's going to be other people in that training class that's going to become your best friends. My first franchise I bought 19 years ago, there are people that I still talk to on a weekly basis. We may have gone different life directions, but I still talk to and maintain relationships. As a matter of fact, one of them I probably talk to 3 times a day. That's my water cooler buddy, Pete. It's just we talk that often. So you've got that. Then you've got the conferences we talked about where you're going to intermingle. But then in the background, you've got chat rooms and things like that. You can talk. You're going to see postings that people put up that people comment on. There are things like with my first franchise, I was in what's called an ambassador. So my whole role was as newer franchisees came on, I was somebody they could go to and ask questions about, hey, tell me about what you're doing. Can you help me succeed in my business? Because somebody did that for me before. So I had no problems doing those roles because I'm like, I used that ambassador very heavily. And now I'm one that's returning that. So there's all kinds of different ways to do that. And then a lot of franchisors, if they're starting to do new things, they may have, hey, let's try this out. We want these couple of franchisees to try it out. So you network that way.
So for you, looking back in your 19 years as a franchise owner, what is something that might have helped you decide to get into this earlier if you knew that could debunk someone's thought on it? And then what is something the like biggest thing you've learned that was your own misconception about it from over the years?
So the biggest misconception I think is franchising is food. So that's the big thing. And it's going to have to be to get a franchise, you're going to have to spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. It doesn't have to be that way. My first franchise I got into, my total investment was 75,000 all in. And so like, okay, so that was the first thing. Um, I'm sorry, what was the first part of the question?
What was the thing that you would when you got into this you didn't expect?
Um, as far as didn't expect, probably, you know, I don't know. I think the camaraderie that was there in franchising, I didn't expect because I was always used to, working against other people. I was in sales, I was in recruiting, and you're always working against other people and the team aspect of franchising. I probably didn't expect. Um, looking at, I didn't know where this would go. I was just trying to say, hey, let me just get this off the ground and see where this goes. Um, Probably the focus that I ended up building up over the last 19 years and actually having a game plan in life or, 35, I really didn't have a game plan. In life, I was just like living, I won't say I'm living day to day, but, having goals, having, setting up things just probably wasn't as important to me.
I love how you brought up the topic of the financial commitment because, like you said, you thought it would take hundreds of millions of dollars and you weren't really aware of that. And then you brought up how much it really took to start it. What does that look like? What can a franchise entry really in today's day and age look like money commitment wise so that people have an idea of, hey, I can really do this. It's not what I'm thinking financially.
So when you start looking at all in investment, if you paid cash for everything, like my first model, my dad co-signed on the loan for me, which was very nice. Most of the time, if you can pay your franchise fee down, which can be anywhere from 20,000 to 50,000, something like that, the rest can be borrowed through a wide variety of different ways. So we've seen that. If you're starting like home-based franchises, like my first one, which I'm still doing, um, you can get into those for less than 100,000 with working capital. You start getting into service brands, like I started talking about the kitchen tune-up person. or the person who didn't like does all my mosquitoes and stuff, or like mosquito squad that treats my grass. You're into it again, paying cash for everything and not thinking about vehicles. You're looking at 100 to 150, and then you can get up to when you start getting into semi-absentee things. It can get anywhere from 250 to $500,000 in things. But again, a lot of this can be borrowed. It just depends on where you want to be, where you want retail, non-retail, things like that.
And I think that's important to understand that depending on the market or what industry you're trying to go into, it can really change on what you might be thinking the buy-in entry is and what that commitment really looks like. I want to shift that a little bit to that time commitment. When you're starting to become a franchise owner, what is the time commitment that once you kind of understand that goes into the process?
Sure. So if you're an active owner of franchise, meaning, hey, this is my gig, this is what I'm doing, it's just like corporate America. It's, hey, 40, 50 hours a week, especially in the beginning, maybe a little bit longer because you're learning something new. But then again, you can start managing your time once you get through that learning curve where, hey, this is a 40-hour week. We can do this. If it's semi-absentee, like for example, the nail salon, our manager's doing the bulk of the work. In the beginning, I had a couple hours a week looking for real estate, national real estate department, probably about 10 hours a week as construction was going on because we had a, you know, construction management team. We're opening up. We're probably into it like 20 hours a week. My wife was doing it part time too. But now we're into the point where, hey, the manager's running it for us. It's growing. We went skiing this year. We took our daughter to Disney this year. Our business kept going on. We could see it through our cell phone. They could call us. We're in our business like 15 hours a week, growing that business. But it's designed to be that way.
And I think it's important to understand how it's designed and what that commitment looks like. And I think you gave it a real good answer with understanding each step can be a different time commitment. And once you're growing and you put the right people in place, it can really function not all the time without you, right? You don't want to be
No,
absent,
you're
but
right.
you have those times where you can say, okay, it's family time. I want to take that trip. And I know someone is going to be there that can manage things and know how to access me when it's appropriate to access me and the appropriate ways to do that. Doug, how can people get in contact with you if they want to connect?
So they can always call me. My cell phone number is 864-346-5277. They can go to my website, like you said, Stout Franchise Advisors, or they can always email me at my first initial D, last name Stout, STOUT, at ftml.net.
Thank you, Doug, for all of your insight today.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, Olivia. It's been
I had a
fun
lot
being here.
I had a lot of fun, and I think there was a lot of great takeaways from today's conversation and a lot of insight that was given. And I want to go over a few of those key takeaways from today's conversation. Is business is for yourself, but not by yourself. When you're a business owner, especially within franchises, yes, it's for yourself, but there's the people that back you. You're not by yourself. There's always that community. And I think that was a really great theme of today's conversation was that community, as well as goals are really important and your goals and needs need to align with what you're trying to do. So take the time out of your day and sit down and figure out what those goals are on a for a daily basis, a weekly basis, a yearly basis, because that will really help you stay aligned with what you're trying to do, stay balanced. Like Doug had said earlier, it helps him with family life and balancing his different franchises, as well as take the time to understand the process. No matter what you're doing, when you understand the process, you'll have a better understanding of why things might be working the way they are, if there's a better way to do something as well, or if it's great and there's more room for you to grow. As well as I love this, especially within franchising, you have that community. And it's one of the things people, whatever you're trying to do, there's a community, whether you realize it or not. And within franchising, Doug really spoke about that today of there is that community, there is that ability for you to learn off others and be able to communicate and build that teamwork environment, even as an owner to owner, and then the ability to be able to give that back to others. This was a great episode with our top notch guest, Doug Stout. Thank you for listening and have a successful day.